Here's the... Oh, you died of dysentery.
Gotta look out for that dysentery. They get you every time. We had a little fun with our opening today. Andy, our editor, he's just like a whiz. The guy's a genius. Awesome job. It's in honor of the new version of the Oregon Trail game. Who remembers playing that? It might be my very first memory of playing a computer game back in the day. I was in 5th grade. My math teacher, Mr. Zavatsky, more specifically, easier to say Z. Mr. Z used to play it. We used to gather around his desk. We loved it, and everybody died of dysentery. It was amazing. It's been around since the 70s, but it has been updated many times throughout the year. But this newest version is going to focus specifically on more accurately representing Native Americans. NPR did a story on all of this, and we think that is worth your time. They talked to a few people from tribes in Oregon, including a woman who grew up playing this game in school on the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation. Her memory of Native Americans in that game is getting a message that a tribe killed off someone in your wagon train. The developers consulted with historians, and they're getting rid of the cliches and the stereotypes that have been in the game in the past, like the fact that Native Americans weren't using bow and arrow at the time because they had rifles. They're also adding more central roles for Native American characters. One thing, though, that does remain in the game, you can still die of dysentery, as you should. All right, let's talk about the vaccine right now and about how to get Oregon and Washington to that 70%, that magic number. Look, if 70% of eligible people, so 16 and older, get at least one shot, not even fully vaccinated, one shot, then both governors in both states will open up the states, Washington and Oregon. We still got a ways to go, okay? And I know with the people who are waiting to get vaccinated or afraid to get vaccinated, I know what you're thinking. What's in it for me? Make it worth my while. Well, how about a free Krispy Kreme donut if you show your vaccination card? No? You find that a little insulting? Yeah, I understand. Well, if you change your mind, that's still an option. Maybe some suds instead. In Connecticut and New Jersey, they're giving away free beers for people who get vaccinated. It's called the Shot and a Beer campaign, which is genius. Or as this punchy headline writer phrased it, vaccinated individuals will be able to get a free drink at certain restaurants. Clickbait. Not a drinker? Lots of people aren't. Well, then maybe you can beef up your portfolio. In West Virginia, they're offering $100 savings bonds to residents ages 16 to 35 who choose to get vaccinated. Civil and financial responsibility. In Memphis, Tennessee, the city's giving away a free car. Take a bus to the clinic, ride home in a new Dodge Dart or something. But just how happy the guy is in the promotional ad sponsored by the city. I mean, he's happy with his new car. In Detroit, they're going to give you $50 if you get a neighbor to go to a vaccine appointment, if you can sign them up and get them a ride to that first shot. In New York, they're giving away baseball tickets, Yankees and Mets, or free subway passes for a week. UCLA recently did a study that found that vaccine-hesitant people would be more likely to get the vaccine if they got paid $100 to get it, and even more likely to get it if it meant they didn't have to wear a mask anymore, which seems like it's something the CDC was listening to, because they announced today people vaccinated against COVID-19 can go without masks indoors and outdoors, which basically gives states the option to make this an incentive, like Oregon, where up until now mask rules have been very strict. We're going to talk more about that in a minute. But the data on all of these incentives, these techniques, shows that they are working a little bit. The impact isn't huge. I mean, how many vaccine-hesitant people are going to change their mind because of a donut or a pint? It's not like they're giving away $1 million or something. Enter Ohio, where they are giving away $1 million and college scholarships in weekly drawings. Listen to the details here. It's unbelievable. People between the ages of 16 and 18 who get the shot will be eligible for a full ride scholarship, room and board, to any state college or university. And people 18 and older can win $1 million in these drawings. States are getting creative. They're getting generous. And hopefully they're getting people vaccinated. Now, as far as the incentives here in Oregon, anything kind of like that, to get people to 70%, we do have Krispy Kreme around here, right? Meanwhile, Governor Jay Inslee is going full Oprah with his giveaways in Washington. Inslee made some huge announcements today saying vaccinated people can take off their masks, go to sporting events and pack sections with vaccinated people. Small cruises can set sail again if everyone has the vaccine. And concerts, live events, and funerals can go back to full capacity if people can prove they're vaccinated. The state's giving away prizes at the Mariners game tonight. And Inslee says wineries and breweries are working on getting everyone a free pint or a glass of wine with a vaccine card. And since it's the Pacific Northwest and alliteration sells just about everything, how about joints for jabs?
Would you encourage the Liquor and Cannabis Board to also allow, say, cannabis retailers to give free joints for jabs? Would you match Governor Mike DeWine's office to his citizens to play Who Wants to Be a Vaccinated Millionaire or something similar?
Well, of course, a pint of a microbrew ale, any pint from Washington is worth $1 million from Ohio, so we consider those equal incentives. But no, I would not rule out these kind of incentives. I actually have discussed with my staff the potential of this type of grand prize lottery. I think it actually could make sense. So it is something we're giving some thought to. I wouldn't rule out to legal products like marijuana, so I'm not ruling that out.
Did you see the sign language interpreter doing joints for jabs? Did you know that that was the official? I didn't know. Now I know. Teaching you stuff right here on the story. Governor Brown did release a statement late this afternoon saying Oregon will follow the CDC's guidance and let vaccinated people take off their masks indoor and outdoor. How about that? There you go, Oregon. Now, she didn't say anything about any of the other incentives that we've heard about, but we've seen this back and forth with Oregon and Washington so many times during the pandemic. One does something, the other follows suit. So maybe just start thinking about how you want to spend that $1 million, all right? I'll probably spend mine on donuts and beer. All right, so how are we doing? What are our numbers right now? More than 2,017,000 Oregonians have gotten at least their first dose, and that works out to be 57.6% of the population, people 16 and older, okay, with at least one shot. In Washington, more than 3.52 million have gotten at least their first dose, which works out to be 57.4% of the population who is 16 and older with at least one shot. Again, both states want to take that 57.4 or up to 70%. That's what we're looking to hit, that mark, before fully reopening. Now, I just got this email from Justin. Hey, Dan, each day you do how many people have gotten vaccinated in Oregon and Washington. Can you do a graph of vaccinations per day? I would like to see how much vaccinations have slowed down. Ask and you shall receive. Here you go. Here's a look at the daily number of vaccines given in Oregon since the beginning of the year. That dotted line there shows the 2-week average. You can see where it has steadily climbed up until about mid-April, and then it's been trending downward ever since. Right now, we're at about 35,000 doses every single day. Here's a look at the daily vaccine numbers in Washington. Again, doses climbed pretty steadily for months and then leveled off in the kind of the April weeks. They're averaging about 65,000 doses per day in Washington. Let's talk some trash, shall we? I'm just going to guess, take a little guess here, that the single largest increase of trash in your house over the past year has been those plastic to-go containers. You know, the ones, they call them clamshell containers sometimes. I mean, it makes sense that you have them. Indoor dining has been shut down for so long. People just aren't going to restaurants as much. A lot of us have been getting takeout. Thing is, what are you supposed to do with those containers? Because you can't put them in the curbside recycling. So, a Portland startup came up with a little solution. Here's Kaylee Chalmers.
They seem to be almost everywhere. Those plastic clamshells. They hold salads, berries, food to go. The problem, they can't go in our curbside recycling bins. In fact, right now, there are no curbside recycling programs anywhere in Oregon that will take plastic clamshells.
You can see we have cookie containers.
But that's about to change.
It's been kind of immense how many people have been saving clamshells.
In less than 2 weeks, Portland recycling service Ridwell will launch its own plastic clamshell recycling program in Portland.
We make it easy for our members to waste less.
The company is partnering with Green Impact out of Texas to recycle the old clamshells into new ones.
If it's clear, no dyes, and crinkles, That's the #1 plastic we can now recycle. So we're talking about your berry containers, your salad containers, even those like jars of peanut butter.
Taylor Lowen is general manager of Bridwell Portland. Since it launched in the Rose City last December, the company has kept more than 150,000 pounds of hard-to-recycle trash out of the landfill.
Over 6,000 pounds of light bulbs, over 20,000 pounds of batteries, 65,000 pounds of clothing, 46,000 pounds of plastic,
and over 4,000 pounds of styrofoam, which is pretty impressive considering how light that stuff is. The company has teamed up with a number of recycling companies, including one that turns that thin plastic film.
All those Amazon mailers people were ordering in from COVID, it's Ziploc bags, it's that saran wrap, it's stretchy plastic film.
Into composite lumber for decks, benches, and playground sets. But it was those pesky plastic containers that people kept asking about.
We had hundreds of members write in asking about clamshells, and that really put the pressure on us to figure out a good solution.
Of course, for Ridwell to come pick up your hard-to-recycle items, you do have to be a member. Memberships start at $12 a month. You'll get this bin and separate recycling bags for each item. And then you'll get the peace of mind. You're doing something good for the planet.
So we're really happy to bring a solution to Oregonians.
Keely Chalmers, KGW News.
So that's one solution for one recycling problem. I'm guessing, you have a lot of recycling problems. Who doesn't? You get so many different plastic containers and packaging, you don't really know what to do with a lot of it. Do you recycle it? Do you throw it away? Oftentimes the answer is throw it away. Most of that stuff is considered trash. Well, Oregon lawmakers are considering some bills right now to put the burden of all of that, the recycling and the thinking you have to do back on the companies making those products instead of having it be on you and me, the consumer. The big one is House Bill 2065. If it passes, companies that make things like paper or disposable utensils would split the cost of recycling alongside with the taxpayer. The state would upgrade our recycling sorting facilities. It would create a statewide list of what's recyclable in those facilities, and it would ban the use of that 3-arrow recycling sign on items that are not actually recyclable. Right now, this bill's in the House committee. We're going to let you know what happens with it. Now, on the federal level, Oregon Senator Jeff Merkley is sponsoring a bill in Congress called the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act. It does a lot of the same things, like requiring big companies to fund waste and recycling programs, incentivize those companies to make reusable products that can actually be recycled, reduce single-use plastics that can't be recycled, and create a nationwide bottle return program modeled after Oregon's. Right now, the Senate bill is in a Senate committee, and we'll let you know where it ends up. I also want to remind everybody about our Hey Help campaign, giving back to the community. We're looking for a bunch of ways to do that, and our very first initiative is partnering with Solve to clean up trash in Tom McCall Waterfront Park. We're going to be out there next Wednesday morning, and if you want to join, you're invited. Please, I'll be out there. Some other people from the show will be out there. We would love to see you, meet you in person, and do some good here. Open up the camera on your phone, point it at the QR code on the screen, and it'll send you a link where you can sign up. You can also find that link at kgw.com if your camera phone's not working or something like that. There is a limited number of spots available. A lot of them filled up last night. I'm told there still are some extra ones right now. But if it does fill up, don't worry. Solve has a lot of other opportunities for you to join events with them and do your part in this community. A big thanks to everyone who has signed up so far. And we are going to have more Hey Help opportunities for you to give back, because I know our viewers love solutions, love ways to get involved in this community. So please keep an eye out for more of those in the future. And if you have any ideas, if you have some organizations doing some great work, things that you think we should know about, please let me know. Email us at thestory@kgw.com. Find me on Facebook or Instagram, or use Twitter in the hashtag HeyDan.
December 2019 was pretty much the worst time imaginable to open really any type of business in Portland. But it may surprise you who's paying the debt for a brand new hotel that's been sitting empty for a year.
These are public dollars. They're tax dollars.
And it turns out the war over water in the Klamath Basin ain't new.
Gut feeling is that we're going to have to fight long and hard to get this back.
We'll dip into the KGW vault when the story continues. Welcome back. Thanks for sticking with us. This is The Story. We always go through your tweets and your emails during the break. Keep sending them our way to thestory@kgw.com. For emails, you can use that hashtag #HeyDan on Twitter. So tell me what you think of this pitch. All right. Convention they go traveling on a company dime to fill a hotel right next to the Oregon Convention Center. And the debt taken out to help finance construction on that place is repaid with taxes from hotel guests. It sounds like a pretty good plan. Well, it was until the pandemic hit. See, conventions were called off, and this hotel we're talking about shut down. It's set to reopen later this month, but investigative reporter Kyle Aboshi wanted to know, since no one's been staying there, who's been paying that debt?
After years of planning and millions in public funding, the Hyatt Regency at the Oregon Convention Center opened in December 2019, and timing could not have been worse. 4 months later, the 600-room hotel suspended operations due to the pandemic. Rooms have been sitting empty ever since. Later this month, the hotel plans to reopen, despite a bleak outlook for the convention industry, according to economist Joe Courtwright and many others.
This is an industry nationally that's really struggling, and it doesn't look like it's going to come back real soon, if it does at all.
Metro, which runs the Oregon Convention Center across the street, hoped the $240 million hotel project would attract new conferences and draw thousands of business travelers to Portland. As part of its pitch, the regional government, Metro, suggested the debt taken out to finance construction would be repaid by taxing hotel guests. Instead, Metro has been forced to tap into reserves to make bond payments while the hotel was closed and conventions canceled.
I mean, Metro could well find itself forced to dig pretty deeply, given these circumstances and the uncertainty going forward.
Haywood Sanders, a professor of public administration at the University of Texas at San Antonio, warns the loss of hotel tax revenue could force Metro to use up resources needed elsewhere.
These are public dollars. They're tax dollars.
Metro expected taxes on hotel guests at the Hyatt would generate $2.9 million last year. Instead, Metro collected only about $150,000 in tourism taxes at the property.
Is that hotel going to produce the kind of economic boon that had been promised year after year by consultants, by Metro staff, etc.? And at this moment, that looks enormously questionable.
To cover debt payments until the hotel reopens, Metro has relied on savings built up from countywide tourism taxes on lodging and rental cars. Metro's chief financial officer, Brian Kennedy, believes there's enough money in reserves to get by, and he's optimistic financial conditions will improve within the next 5 years.
There's still strong interest in groups coming to Portland, and the Convention Center Hotel is an important part of that.
The question is, will convention attendance fully bounce back from the pandemic? Metro is counting on it because it needs hotel tax revenue to help pay the bills.
Okay, let's talk to Kyle Aboshi for just a minute. And tell me a little bit more about your reporting, Kyle. You talked to some experts about the future of conventions and how there's some real concerns around that industry.
They say the game has really changed here. In the near futures, companies are less likely to send employees to conventions. They're just uncertain as far as safety is concerned and mass gatherings. Are people comfortable? They're also kind of rethinking whether people need to travel to far-flung locations, Portland, Seattle, Vegas, Orlando, whatever it may be, especially when they're doing things like this. You and I, Zoom conferences are free.
What about the outlook in Portland then? What are people saying here locally about conventions and everything that they traditionally bring to a downtown area?
Yeah, I exchanged emails with Travel Portland trying to get a better read on what the local situation is here. They said bookings are strong through about 2023 and beyond. The short term is a little more challenging, though. There's uncertainty here. It's really tough to book events when you don't know what things are going to look like 3 months, 5 months down the road. And also government mandates on how many people can gather, what that looks like. That's challenging as well. So locking down conventions in the near term, really questionable.
Got it. All right, Kyle Aboshi, thank you. Earlier this week, we told you about the conflict over the water in the Klamath Basin in southern Oregon. Now, if you missed that story, you can watch it right now at our KGW YouTube channel. Now, the Klamath Basin is under what they call exceptional drought right now, which is the worst level of drought. It's the worst it can get on that chart. Farmers and indigenous tribes in the area are kind of at odds over who gets the little amount of water that there is in the upper Klamath Lake. The conflict really came to a head in 2001, and one of our viewers, Jeff, remembered that. He wrote us and said, "Hey Dan, watching the piece on the drought in the Klamath Basin reminds me of a headline back in 2001, right before 9/11. Angry farmers were upset over the same issue. I bet you'd find a lot of that in the vault." Well, Jeff, you were right. So we dug into the KGW vault. In 2001, there was another really bad drought in that area, but something else happened that changed this situation for the people living there.
A federal judge ordered these head gates shut to protect endangered suckerfish.
All right, federal agencies ruled that there should be a minimum level of water in Upper Klamath Lake to sustain Lost River and short-nosed suckerfish, as well as the coho salmon. The tribes in that area have senior water rights for fishing them, and since it was a drought year, the federal government decided to shut off all of the water to the farms to keep it in the lake. The farmers, well, they were pretty devastated by that.
It's just really hard. I saw my husband cry then, and I saw tears in his eyes the day that they said no water on our farm.
And that's been true for everybody. I mean,
it has been.
That's how deeply it's cut this community.
It has cut him, and it has cut deeply, and it hurts, and every night we do go to bed and we talk about it, and we don't sleep well. We're probably one of the few husband and wife teams that aren't on some type of medication. So far we've been able to deal with this, but I know a lot of people have said they've had to take antidepressants because it's got them so worried about what they're going through.
Farmers and anti-government types, they protested the shutoff. 13,000 people showed up for a bucket brigade where they took water out of the lake with buckets and passed it person to irrigation canals. We couldn't find any interviews in our footage getting the tribe's reaction to all this, but when we talked to leaders from the Klamath tribes earlier this month, they remembered what it was like for them.
And I went up to the counter, and back behind the counter, it had this drawing of this creek and something that kind of looked like one of our twam. You know, I guess the best hand-drawn picture of what they thought was a twam in a stream. And it said, "Here's your water sucker." And it showed this basically figure urinating into the water on top of the sucker. You know, it's like it's like basically you might as well urinate on tribal members, you know, or something, you know. So those kind of things have been prevalent.
The farmers went to then Vice President Dick Cheney to get more water. He ultimately ordered that some of the water be released to the farms. And the next year was the largest salmon die-off ever recorded in that region. If you have any suggestions for the KGW Vault, we check them. We look for them down there. Use that hashtag #HeyDan. I'm going to read some of your comments and answer some questions as we finish the story next.
Okay, we're talking about a couple of things here. First, I just learned that there are only 3 spots remaining for our Solve cleanup next Wednesday. You can get on kgw.com. It's part of our Hey Help initiative, where we're looking for different ways to partner with organizations in the community and do things to uplift this place. Because we know that we get emails every single night of people who are curious, different ways that they can help and give back. So we're going to try and help facilitate that for you. We're going to do a cleanup on Wednesday. I'll be there with some other team members. 3 spots left. If you want to help, please sign up with us. If you get on there and the spots are taken, please find another spot with Solve. They do great work in this community in various neighborhoods, and be part of the people who help in this community. Susan wrote in and said, what about 12-year-olds getting vaccinated, right? So we're seeing younger and younger kids authorized for vaccination. Does that change the metrics for Oregon opening up? I've not heard that. So for now, the eligible people that are part of that 70% that the governor is looking for statewide to open things back up are 16 and older. So the numbers that we have been working with for the longest period of time, not people younger than that. So 16 and up, we can get to 70% with 1 shot. We'll start to feel like things are back to normal a little bit, huh? We're going to talk more about all this mask news and everything that came out tomorrow. But for now, if you have any questions about it, let us know. Reach out using that hashtag, HeyDan. That's the story. I'll see you back here at the end of the week.